We didn't know what was going to happen to the supply chain. We didn't know what was going to happen to build times. So what we knew in the spring and summer of 2020 was, wow, it's booming. This is great. We're just writing contracts left and right. This is awesome. Yep. And yeah, your home should be built in 5, 6, 7 months. Great. That's the expectation that was set at the beginning with those buyers, because that's what the build time had been before then. All of a sudden, we have these buyers that think their home's going to be finished in 6 months, and instead it takes 15. Some builders were doing lottos where, okay, we're just going to select people at random, and that's you get the opportunity to buy at that point if you can get your foot in the door. So it's like we can say like, oh yeah, like you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. Not everyone has to buy a home. It may not be a goal of yours. That's totally fine. But if you're looking to build wealth over time, it is the number one way to do that.
Hey guys, we are back for another episode this week. We have some really cool things we're going to talk about. Maybe do a little bit of a look back, a little bit of a look ahead. But first, I want to ask Megan, because I know she started something really new and I want her to talk about it. So Megan, tell me, we talked about it recently, but what have you built? What are you doing?
So I have officially started my own YouTube channel.
Come on.
Yeah. So my main focus is going to be the area of DFW that I live in, which is like Anna, Melissa, Van Alstyne, Allen, McKinney, that kind of Northeast DFW core, and just exploring the new communities, the lifestyle. My very first video is up. It is 5 reasons to move to Anna. I'm really excited. I'm still doing like the editing myself, and I'm putting a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this. So I'd love if you go check it out. The link will be in the description.
Don't give it the whole video away, but give me a spoiler. Why did you? Let me ask you this question: why did y'all move to Anna? Because y'all moved up there a couple years ago, right?
We did, yeah. So number one, which is on the list, and number one for us was affordability. It is a up and coming area. There's a lot of development happening here. It's a bit of a boom town, but it's still affordable, especially compared to the surrounding areas. Even Melissa, which is the next neighboring town, there's about $100K difference in price between those two cities. So I think it's a great place to live. Go check out the video if you want to hear more of the reasons.
Yeah, I think that's I've had a lot of people ask me about Anna, and that's probably one of the reasons that I've always told them. So yeah, I can't wait to see what you continue to build with that.
Yeah.
I've heard you were telling me we might be getting like a school district video or something soon.
Yep. Comparing like Anna ISD and Melissa ISD. What's really cool about making these videos for me is like, yes, I live here. I've worked here. I know a decent amount about the area, but in doing research for these videos, I'm learning even more. And it's kind of a great excuse to really hone in on your market and become an expert in that area. So I'm really excited for that.
That's been that's probably been my favorite thing of like creating YouTube content over the last couple of years is like, I get to learn so many cool things. Right. And then I get, obviously I get to share those with people, but then it's like, oh, I didn't even know that this was, that there was all these cool things happening in Anna and or anywhere really, or builders. So when you really enjoy this process, I think it makes it a huge difference, right? And and I'll say I've kind of seen the opening part of that video, and it's evident like you love where you live, and B, you love what you're doing, and so I think that goes a long way, right?
Thanks.
So, all right, today I told you we're gonna do a little bit of let's get in the like DeLorean. We're gonna go backwards, and we're just gonna call it the how do we want to say this, Megan? The time that shall not be named. Like we'll
shall not be named.
Reference. Yeah, the time
for the YouTube censors.
Specifically, the last just like that. For those of you that are watching, I want to talk about real estate in that time because it was nuts, right? And I think a lot of people have did really well in that space, but I think if you weren't really involved or you didn't really see behind the curtain, you didn't see the chaos that was going on, and everybody's like, "Oh, I want to get back to that. I want to get back to that." I'm like, "No, we do not." So you were working for a builder at that point, right? And you were a pay setter.
I was.
Tell me about like what was, from your perspective, what was that like during the last 4 years of DFW market?
Yeah. So one of the things that I loved about working for Paysetter and the management that we had is that they did a really good job of keeping us informed about what was going on in the overarching new construction arena and why.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the reasons that it got so crazy in that time was, go back to March 2020. We get this earth-shattering news. We don't know how it's going to impact the housing market. Most of the builders, capital B, like big home builders, decided to play it safe. Like, you know what? This might crash the market. Let's hold back on purchasing new land to develop, because that ties up a lot of money. And we're just going to see how it plays out. We're going to not build a ton of inventory. We're just going to, keep it all close to home. And what happened was the interest rates dropped. Everybody was working from home, so they needed a home office now, or they could work remotely so they could move further out and not have to worry about a commute. So all of a sudden, everyone wanted to move. It was a great time to move. They had reasons to move. It was affordable, and there was no supply. There was no inventory. There was nowhere to move. And when you have that big skew of demand and supply, that's when things really get crazy.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, we built during that time. So we contracted to build in September of 20. And it took us a full year. Like we didn't close on our house until October of 21. And so the process of walking through that and doing meetings and asking questions, and luckily, one of the reasons, we will talk, I talk a lot about builders and who I like, who I don't like, and the quality that they do. One of the reasons and I've told you guys before, we built with a pace setter home. And one of the reasons that I appreciate them is we did not have an escalation clause. Like they very easily, we were one of the first contracts in our neighborhood. Granted, it took them a year to build, and there was whole other issues behind that, but we did not take a price increase. And I will forever be grateful for that, because that was not the case for every builder. That was not the case. I had clients that we had, the builders, because we've talked about it before, in those contracts, there's language that says they can cancel for any reason whatsoever at any time. Right.
Yep.
And so we had builders canceling contracts left and right, and then or escalating, 10, 20, 30. I think I had a $63,000 one during that period.
I was going to say, I heard of a $70,000, or they'll cancel the contract and then relist it for $70K higher. And
then there was and the hardest part in some of those spaces was there was this tension of we always want to advocate to make sure that your home is built correctly. Like that I think that's an important part of the process. And there's always that tension with it, but there was even more tension when something might've been wrong. And it's guys, they're looking for a reason. Please don't cross your T's, dot your I's, and just zip your lips right now, because they're looking for a reason to keep you from buying that house for some builders. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was crazy. On my end of it, working as a builder rep, we didn't know what was going to happen to the supply chain. We didn't know what was going to happen to build times. So what we knew in the spring and summer of 2020 was, wow, it's booming. This is great. We're just writing contracts left and right. This is awesome. Yep. And yeah, your home should be built in 5, 6, 7 months. Great. That's the expectation that was set at the beginning with those buyers, because that's what the build time had been before then. So all of a sudden we have these buyers that think their home's going to be finished in 6 months, and instead it takes 15.
Yeah.
And if you can imagine, you sold a bunch of them in that time. So maybe you've got 30, 40, 50 buyers in your backlog, which is a lot. And every single one of those buyers is mad at you because their windows are taking a month to get in, and the AC coils are on back order for 2 months, and their home is just dragging out. It's taking twice as long as you told them it would. And your hands are tied as the sales rep and as the on-site construction manager. If the whole industry is waiting for windows.
Well, and then even on the other side, on the realtor side, it was okay, well, when should we sell your house? Because your new house might be ready in 6 months, or it might take us a year, right? So we had that, and then I've had people recently, they'll be like, oh, we want to get multiple offers. I'm like, yeah, that sounds great until we have 20 that we've got to parse through. like that came in over a weekend, right? Which we had,
Mhm.
and it was like, hey, you've got to make, you know, escalation clauses, you've got no contingency, like all these different things. It was wild. And then you couple that too with
Mhm.
like DFW has just continually grown like year over year. Like it was growing pre that time, and I think that just like poured gas on the fire for
Yeah.
the growth here in DFW, and we are continuing to see that like even now, right?
Yeah. So let's talk about like some of the things that, because like everyone was figuring it out on the fly.
Yep.
Builders, like we had never seen anything like that before. Realtors had never seen a market like this before. So everyone was just trying to figure out the best ways to handle it. Let's talk about some of the techniques and methods that different builders came up with for managing this increased demand. For us, I remember that fall, we were one of the first communities to go to a slotting schedule or a sales cap, where they actually told us, hey, you can only sell X number of homes per month. For us, like it eventually got to like 4 homes per month. Like, hey, we just can't keep up. We don't have enough supervisors. We don't have enough trades. We don't have enough materials in order to keep up with the pace of what you guys could sell. So they artificially constricted that so that we could take a breather and actually catch up and not make everyone mad with not being able to build what was promised.
Right.
And that was crazy. We had wait lists where it's like, okay, first come, first serve. We're going to call you on the first, have your pre-qual and have your earnest check ready, because you might have to wait till next month if you don't.
Yep. We had wait lists. We had some builders. I remember standing, we were talking about this recently. I remember standing in line outside of a builder's model in like 40-degree weather, waiting to get into like for like an auction. And it was like the house there wasn't anything spectacular about it. It was just like, hey, we have 2 houses. Like we're going to come in and you're going to bid. And I was like, this is nuts.
Yeah. There were some builders that did that where they usually, since you guys know, usually in new construction, it is first come, first serve. There's not like a multiple offer situation on a home that is available for sale. So that is one benefit whenever it is a crazy seller's market. You don't have to worry about having to bid $100K over asking for
like what we're in now. Yes. A normalized market. Yes.
Yeah. So that is normally a benefit. Some builders started doing that though during that time. We're like, you know what? We can make a lot more money if we just open this up to bids. Some builders were doing lottos. Yeah. I don't personally. We're just going to select that. People at random. That takes away one of the advantages. You get the opportunity to buy at that point. If we were seeing it in the door.
And then, you couple all of that with interest rates that hit like 2s and 3. And so now we're feeling the aftermath of that, right? Like we're 4 years past 2, whatever, however you want to count it. And so it's like, oh, interest rates. I mean, we like that's the challenge I think that most people feel. We were talking to a lender the other day and we were talking, what did he say? Something like 70% of homeowners have a sub 4% rate right now, which then
you think those people are going to move?
Even if they have to, like that's such the hard space right now, which is why we still feel like we're still in this shortage of homes. Like, and that's why like Megan and I are so pro on new construction, is because there's so much opportunity and there's so much more needed just in the DFW market alone. Right.
Yeah.
So all of these people, like, I feel that, like, I've had clients, they're like, hey, we need to move. We're having another kid. We changed jobs. We're like, our commute is doubling. We need to move. But we have a sub 4 rate, and we know, like, with the way prices have gone, like, we're going to get, like, we don't feel like we're upgrading at this point. I think that's a big thing that's happened in the market right now, is people are like, normally when you sell, you're selling because you feel like you're upgrading or you're stepping up or you're, whatever it is. And I think a lot of people right now are unfortunately in that space of like, if we have to sell, it doesn't feel like we're getting an upgrade. It may, in some cases, it may even feel like a downgrade.
Yeah. Because that payment's still going to be so much higher at that higher interest rate. And what's crazy about the interest rates in the 2s and the 3s and even the 4s, like, that is not normal. That is
No,
not anywhere
no.
close to the historic average. The historic 100-year average is about 8%
Yeah.
interest. So we got so used to that in that time, and so many people bought homes during that time that now this rate that we have of about 7.5% feels so high and
Yeah.
so abnormal. And okay,
And
if the rates were 7.5%, but the prices were what they were before 2020, I think it would still be affordable. But you have that double whammy of the
yeah,
prices went up 200,000 and then the interest rates doubled. Like, no
yeah.
wonder people are having a hard time
Do you
affording homes.
do you remember off the top of your head, like the year that y'all bought your first house? Do you remember what your first interest rate was? Do you know?
I think it was in the fours, 2015.
2015?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We bought in 2017, and I think we had a mid five, and we were happy about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it
Yeah.
was awesome. That was like our first entry into the market was 2017 in the mid fives.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that though, because I think people look at that and they're like, well, what's the option? What's the alternative? Builders are still getting like that again. Why we're so pro on building? Builders are still putting money in the market to get into those 5% rates, to get into those 4% rates. I closed a client 2 weeks ago that we used their builder, like the builder paid for their interest rate, and they got them down to a 4.35 rate permanent, like not even like
Wow.
that's not a 2-1 buy down. That was a permanent like 4.35. And I'm like, do you and that's
Awesome.
what I told him at the closing table. I was like, do you understand how good of a rate you just got on that house?
Yeah. You just rewound the clock by a few years.
Yeah.
Like,
And yeah. And so that's I mean, so many of these builders are putting so much money in, flex cash and rate buy downs and forward commitments, and which is basically a real fancy word of saying like, hey, they're pre-buying the interest rate so that they can give that back to you. Like that's why there's so much opportunity in that space right now.
yeah, because you have to think about like this is their business.
Yeah.
Builders sell homes. Like that is how they make money. So when they saw, okay, interest rates are getting higher, demand is slowing down, we still have all these homes that we need to sell. What are we going to do in order to keep business going? And it makes the most sense to put money towards making homes more affordable for people. So it's not like you have this individual homeowner that they have this one home that they're going to sell and like, yeah, they want to make money on it, but they're it's not the same as when that's your entire business model. So you're always going to find the best deals with builders. And traditionally, new homes have always been more expensive than pre-built homes. But we saw in this last year or so that gap has actually gotten a lot closer, and to the point where you might as well go new.
Yeah. I mean,
There's so many
it's definitely gotten closer. And I think that's important to talk about. Like in some markets, resale homes are still cheaper. So we're not definitely saying that new homes are like the end all be all. But what you have to understand in that market is you're negotiating against Sally and John who need $100,000 out of that house so they can send their kid to college or can pay off debt or like, and so they just don't have the margin to say, oh yeah, we can give you, and not, don't get me wrong. There are plenty of sellers that are giving closing cost credits when it's negotiated in, but they're not upfront and advertising and saying, look, this is what we can do. Whereas a builder saying, hey, we've got 50 homes in this neighborhood spread across all of our portfolio. We can move some money. And so, yeah, that house may be a little bit more expensive than the resale neighborhood down the street. But on the expense side, what you're factoring in is all of those back end like closing cost numbers that are either lowering your cash to close or lowering like monthly payment because the interest rate is being brought down, or both, right?
Not to mention, the things that we've talked about in other videos, the utility bills are going to be lower. You're not going to have to do major renovations at the start.
I will say, so we have to give both sides. You're not going to have to do major renovations. Your utility bills are going to be lower. Your taxes are probably going to be higher. Like that.
Yeah, if you're in a mud or a PID or higher HOA.
Mud or a PID, HOA, that is going to be a little bit more of an expense. I don't want you thinking like, oh, this is all the way great. Like you're still going to have those, but there are new neighborhoods that don't have those muds and PIDs. Like you just have to look for them and find them.
They usually
They're
advertise that. They'll put
yeah.
on the signs, no mud, no
And
pid.
builders are really proud of that. And most of the time, at least in my experience, that you kind of see that more on the outskirts, right? Like if you're looking at DFW as a whole, the further out you go, the better chance you have of not finding that mud and pit.
So let's get back to what's going on in the housing market. I know you and I could go on all day about the benefits of new construction. Like,
yeah, we got to get back to what else? What did we see? Did you ever have those meetings where it was like, hey, one person can come in, we're going to talk for 10 minutes, and then the other person can come in and we'll talk? We had that.
No, like, what do you mean?
Like, so we did design appointments. Like, design appointments over Zoom were awful. Like, and we're like watching the design and like, do you want this tile or this tile? And it's like, they look exactly the same. I don't know. But no, we had at one point, it was a meeting and it was like, hey, they literally had like a 10-minute clock, and it would be like, hey, you can come in and we'll talk to you for 10 minutes, and then your spouse can come in and we'll talk to them, but you can't be in the same room at the same time.
Oh, like for like social distancing sort of purposes? Interesting. Yeah. No, I never had that. We had to wear masks, like everyone did. I know some builders put up like the big plexiglass walls and all that, but no, we never had anything like that. We actually did shut down the model though. We shut down all models for about 2 months in 2021. Just to give everybody a breather and a chance to catch up on all the homes that we already sold, all the starts that we needed to do, all of the design appointments that needed to get done. So literally doors closed for 2 months, signs on the door, we're not taking any new appointments. Even after that ended, it was like by appointment only, no walk-ins. I remember one of my first weekends actually out here in Anna when I was working out here, I had maybe 30 to 40 units of traffic in one weekend, which, just to put that into perspective, once things normalized, it was typically less than 20 units of traffic for the whole week.
Yeah.
Like when it really slowed down, I might have like one person for the whole week. But yeah, 30 or 40 people coming through in one weekend. And it's like, I got to the point where I would see someone pull up and I would like, no, I can't do it again. I can't do one more sales presentation. My throat is on fire. My feet hurt.
Exhausted.
I'm dead. Yeah. And you just got to keep going. So yeah, it was craziness. And people like, yeah, they want the lower prices and they want the lower interest rates, but you don't want to be in that position. I had a realtor tell me that they were searching for her daughter and son-in-law, and they put in 13 offers on the pre-built market before they finally got the one. And I don't know if you've ever if you've ever gone through that process before, where you find a home that you love and you put an offer in on it and you're just crossing your fingers and hoping and praying and waiting for that phone call to come in. And then you get the call and it's, sorry, they took another offer, and it's heartbreaking. And to go through that process 13 times, like I can't even imagine by the end of it how desensitized you would be. Like you wouldn't even let yourself get excited because you would just set yourself up for disappointment.
And then you end up like, I think now too. So we're talking about the people not moving because of low interest rates. I would be curious to know how many people have like buyer's remorse over what they bought over the last 4 years. Like I bet it's a big number of like, hey, we had to buy something. We look like you said, we've been desensitized. We've put offers in on 20 different houses, and it's like, yeah, we like this one, but do we really like it? So I bet that number is high, of like the buyer's remorse of like, man, I
think there's actually a term for it. Like I saw an article about that, like that there's so many people that bought when the interest rates were low and they just got into something just because they're like, okay, I got to get into something. And now they feel locked in because they're not going to get as good of an interest rate. The good news is for those buyers, depending on what area, you've probably seen a really good amount of appreciation on your home value. Your home might be worth 100, 200,000 more, depending on when you bought and where you bought. So that can help. And if you go with a builder who's buying down your rate, that can help you get out of it. There is hope in there if you feel stuck where you're at.
Yeah, it's still just like all of it. I mean, it's still a hard market. Like we want to help people where we can, but I also want to be realistic and tell you, hey, it's a difficult space, like
Yeah.
especially as a first time home buyer right now. That's where my heart, like, and I know your heart's in that place too of like, how do we help our first time home buyers get into this game, because it has become so hard, and it's gotten so expensive.
I'm sure you see the memes too, where it's like, what was I doing? I should have been buying a house when I was in kindergarten. I was so
Oh yeah,
stupid.
I was in middle school in 2008. What are we doing?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I think a lot of people in our generation feel like they missed the boat and it's just not going to happen for them. And my heart goes out to them, and I want to help those people.
yeah, and that's why, I mean, we can find the resources, and like I said, you're gonna have to compromise on some things.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have to play the game, the right way, but we can try and make it happen, right?
Yeah.
I genuinely believe in that.
I kind of liken it to trying to jump on a moving train.
Yeah,
Your
with
chances
one,
of being able to jump on at the front of the train in first class are really, really low, but you
yep.
might be able to jog up to it and catch the caboose. And it's a lot easier to move from the caboose to third class, to second class, to move your way up the train once you're already on it. But the longer you wait to get on the train, the harder it gets.
Yeah. Well, and two, I think, and I don't know when this shifted. Maybe it was early 2000s, maybe it was before then. But this, like, people now, the average people live in their house 7 to 10 years at most, right? I think before we saw more and more people that were like, oh, this is our forever. Like my parents lived in the same house for 20 something years.
Yeah,
Or
I can't imagine.
before that, yeah, no, that doesn't even, like, I can't, like, we've been in our house 3 and I'm already trying to figure out, like, what do I do next?
Yeah.
So I think we've seen that shift too. So again, I'm not telling you to take, don't buy something bad, but just
No.
understand, like, this is not a lot, like time is so quick, that we move from one thing to the next.
So when you look back on
that,
it, you're like, how has it already been 2 or 3 years,
yeah,
But
and getting in on those opportunities, I think that's the best thing, right? And it's like, we all is like, if I'd have known now what I known then, I would have leveraged everything I had to buy as much property as I could. Like,
yeah. So
let's
let's talk about like some things that like first time home buyers, like what kind of attitudes and mindsets do they need to have if they're going to make this happen for themselves? Like, I feel like number one, there's like you said, there's going to be some compromises either in location. Like you might have to go further out. You might have to drive further to get to an area that's affordable. Size, like maybe you don't buy the house for your non-existent family. You know what I'm saying? Like they'll want to buy the first home. Like, well, we want to have room for when we have kids. It's like, maybe buy the thing that works for you now. And then when those kids come along and you get to the point where you actually need that space, then you move up. Even finish out. Maybe you don't buy a house that's as nice as what you want, but it's still a nice livable quality.
There's still really great builders at those price points, right? So for example, I think about like a Farmersville. Specifically, there's a community in Farmersville. It's Lake Haven, and that is that's trophy and it's Meritage. And I'll tell you, so like I wrote a contract a month ago in there. They're buying it's a 3-bed, 2-bath. It's 1,500 and something square feet, 1,600 something square feet, under 300.
Wow.
So like, and the builder's kicking in money on top of that too. We wrote another one in there that was like a 4.2, like 2,000 square feet at like 310. Farmersville for me, it's like again, the hard part is the drive. Like I think you're buying in a place where nothing is you're waiting on growth to come to you. Farmersville, Princeton, Lavon, there's parts of Anna. I mean, maybe not that low, right? But there's options out there, and they're with solid quality builders. Like this is not like I'm taking you to a terrible builder that you're going to be stuck with. It's a solid option. You can find those things with good builders to get you started. And so doing something like that plus a rate buy down, potentially in some of those spaces it qualifies for USDA. which is a little bit more of a difficulty, like in terms of getting that loan. There's some extra requirements, but it qualifies, so it's at least worth looking at. You could also potentially look at down payment assistance. You're gonna trade a little bit of your interest rate to get help with that. Like there are options to make those kind of things happen.
And the benefit of USDA, for those of you who don't know, is that you can get in with as little as 0 down. So if you are able to make it work, like you could potentially get in with 0 down with money from the builder to cover closing costs, or to lower your interest rate. So there's tools out there if you're working with an expert who knows how to leverage that for you.
Yeah, like I said, your first house doesn't have to, like, if your budget allows for your first house to be that $400,000 or $500,000, awesome. We're all in. Like I have people like that too. But I also, we do both sides. It's like I have that, and it's like, hey, our first house we're trying to get in, and we want to be in, the 280 to 350 range. Like you're going to be limited in where we look, but we can look in those spaces and make those things doable.
Yeah. I think the number one mindset that you have to have is like determination to make it happen, because it's not going to be easy. The deck is stacked against you. So you have to have it. It needs to be something that you want, that you're going to go after with that gazelle-like intensity, and you're going to make it happen no matter what. And when you get those setbacks, you just have to keep pushing and keep trying. And the reason, because it's like, we can say like, oh yeah, like you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. Not everyone has to buy a home. It may not be a goal of yours. That's totally fine. But if you're looking to build wealth over time, it is the number one way to do that, is to purchase and own real estate.
Well, and even again, you and I do a lot of new homes, but there's even avenues where if you're buying, you can buy on an older home and take a loan that'll help you do a rehab, right? Like it's like an FHA 203K. Yeah, which is basically a rehab loan. So again, different criteria, different expectation, but there are options there for you to do that if you can. I think the biggest thing too is like you've got to have a handle on your finances. I think as a buyer, like it always is surprising to me, people who don't have a clear understanding of their budget. And it's like, we think we make about this much, and it's like guys, you need to be able to account for every dollar. And even if that means you're accounting for, hey, we're putting, we're saving this much in our savings account, and this is our every dollar should have a job. And I think once you start wrapping your mind around that sort of budget mentality of like, even if its job is, hey, this is for me to go get my hair done, or for me to go get my like whatever its job, I don't care what its job is, but every dollar needs to be accounted for to have a job in your bank account.
Yeah. And there's going to be some short-term sacrifices for the long-term gain. Like you're going to have to cut back on some expenses that you would rather not go without, but that it's going to serve the long-term goal. So,
I know a lot of builders, like as we're talking about, typically if you're buying, you're like, oh, we need to get out of our lease. Like we've negotiated for lease buyouts before.
Oh yeah.
Of like, hey, if we're 3 months from being out of our lease, but we can close this deal soon. Like, can we get a buy? Yeah, we've negotiated that, and builders have paid, bought people out of leases before.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, I don't want to sound like, oh, well, just like stop buying avocado toast and you can buy a home. Like, I don't want to be
I hate that. Like,
out of touch. I hate that. Like, no, we're not saying that, but we're just trying to give you hope that it is still possible, and it's worth having a conversation.
Yeah.
Call me, call Zach, call an expert in your area, and just have them help you get a game plan together. Even if it's not something that can happen this year, maybe it can happen next year. Maybe it can happen in 2 years. Like, let's just start planning for it and get the knowledge and expertise on your side.
And it's okay to keep enjoying your Starbucks. Again, like that.
Do you know how long it would take to save up a down payment just from skipping Starbucks? Like, you're good. Get your fries.
I hate hearing that from an older generation. Like, as part of the millennial generation, like when we hear that, I'm like, it makes me cringe. I'm like, let it. Like, we don't have a lot in our life. Let us enjoy the little things.
The little things.
But also, let me enjoy the little things while having a plan in place to, I mean, like, we'll just call it what it is. Like, life has gotten expensive, right? Like,
It has.
we went grocery shopping the other day, and I was like, we spent a ton of money, and I don't even feel like I bought anything. And I was like, what did we do? So like, we have to acknowledge that everything has just got. And I'm not an economist, and I'm not any sort of professional in that space. I just, and everybody needs to make more money. Like, we all wish we made more money, right? And so, yeah, I think Megan said it well. Like, let's put together a game plan, like a realistic game plan, not like a, hey, starve yourself, beans and rice, ramen. You're gonna buy it for cash. I'm making fun of that. Here's what I'll say. Dave Ramsey has a special place in my heart for, like, it's like if you need to get started and you need a budget, like, that is a great place. Like, some of the stuff on, like, how he talks about budgeting and debt, and
getting out of debt, brilliant.
Yeah. But, like, some of the other stuff on credit and paying cash for everything, I don't agree. But
I'm with you on that too. Like, I love my points. Like, I get usually a couple grand a year in Amazon points just from my Amazon credit card. So you just have to know how to do it smartly. You don't let that rack up and pay interest on it.
Yeah,
you have to understand what leverage.
Mm-hmm. And I think I want to kind of close with this thought, because I love having this conversation, because for me, like, and I talked to some clients the other day about this, is like, leverage for me is like, I want control of the asset for as little of my money as possible. Mm-hmm. So, I have this conversation, people are like, oh, we need to put 10, 20, 15, 20. I'm like, you don't. And like, when we do the math of like how much it's going to cost, like how much that 20, so like simple math, like on a $400,000 house, 20% is what, 80 grand, right? Is that my math?
Yep.
So 80 grand versus like 400 at 5%. So let me do my math again, is 20 grand. So that, what is it? 60% delta. Like, my question is always, how long would it take you to pay that money back to yourself? And how much, like, and what's the difference in the monthly payment? Because when you really start looking at those numbers, it, like, that $60,000 moves your monthly payment $150, $200 at not, and it's like, how long would it take? So then my question is, okay, if it's 300, how long does it take me paying myself $300 a month to pay back that money? And what else could I have done? Like, think about
what else could you have done with that money?
Yeah.
Like, maybe you invest it, and maybe you're getting a better return on your money than the savings that you get in your mortgage. But
yeah, leverage is the key, I think.
And I think moving forward, like, I know a lot of people are just waiting for the crash.
Oh yeah. Like, I had literally had somebody on a YouTube video yesterday. They're like, hey, call me when this drops by 40%. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm never going to call you. But I can tell you there's good rates out there. Like, we can find a deal, but it's not going to crash by 40%.
No, it's like, as long as, like we were talking about earlier, that supply versus demand, as long as there is more demand than there is supply, we're not going to see a huge crash. We have definitely seen a slowdown from what the market was during 2020, 2021. But that's a good thing, because that was not a normal market. It was not a fun market to be a part of as a buyer or a seller or a realtor or a builder rep. No one was having any fun during that time. So
the only person
you
having
can wish
fun was
for those low rates, but the second those rates drop, everyone who's been waiting on the sidelines for the rates to drop so that they can get in. I mean, there's millions of people that are in that same boat, and they're all going to come out of the woodwork when that happens.
And couple that with the DFW market being like a quick moving, like, everybody is moving here. So it's not, this is not like we're in a market where you don't have, like, you have internal competition and you have serious external competition. So, and that's what makes it challenging.
I think we're number 2 relocation in the US.
We're for sure top 5.
Yeah, like, don't quote me on that, but I think I saw an article about that. We were even set to surpass Chicago as one of the top metro areas in the country.
by like 2040 or something like that. I think the one I read said that there's 1,000 people a day relocating into the DFW area. So that's the hard part. Like, the longer you wait, the more, like, as growth continues to happen, as all, Toyota's building, and PGA is building, and like AT&T, like, all of these companies that are bringing work here, like, they're bringing your competition into the market. So not only you have the people that have been here, but the people that are coming here. So, like, please don't wait.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, let's say hypothetically rates drop below 5% again. So you can either be in the boat where you're like, oh, cool, I've been waiting to buy. Now's my time. And now you have increased competition. Pricing is going up again. And it's really difficult to actually get your foot in the door and buy something, and prices are way higher than they were now. Or you can buy now while the rates are a little bit higher, but maybe your builder helps you buy down the rate. You can at least get in something, and you can refinance when the rates drop.
Or the other option on that is we talk about a build job, and then you at least lock in your pricing, and you're buying yourself 6 to 8 months to see what happens in the market of the rates, right? That gets us through an election cycle, that gets us through, I mean, depending on when you're watching this video, that gets us through all of those things. So like, hey, maybe the option is we're not buying immediately. We're putting deposits down to build, and buying ourselves 8 months worth of time.
Which, by the way, a lot of builders, lenders can also offer a rate lock of up to 12 months. So if you're just really feeling like, oh, I'm really scared, what if rates do go up even higher and I'm under contract and now I'm out of luck? Like, you can usually put down a deposit in order to lock that rate in. And if it is lower by the time it's time to close, you can typically do a free float down to that lower rate. So there's options in place. If you just really want to feel like you have that peace of mind, you can do that.
And I think with that, I think we need to reiterate, like, everybody's playbook is different. And so what works for one will not work for all, right? And so our job is, as best as we can, our job is to give that perspective and say, hey, here's all the different options. And ultimately it's your decision, right? Whether you build, whether you buy, whether you lock that rate, whether you let the rate fly, it's all in how you feel. Like I said, my job, Megan's job, is like as much knowledge and information and perspective as we can give. And I need you to know, like, what you don't have to do what everybody else does.
Yeah. Not everybody is comfortable with the same level of risk. So that's a very personal decision, and you just need to get the information and then be able to make that decision yourself.
Correct. Well, I think, Megan, we've covered a lot. I hope we never have to talk about the time that never has to be named again. I'm good. Like, I don't need to relive it.
It was a wild ride.
It was something. It was definitely something. So, guys, thanks for hanging out. Again, Megan has started her own YouTube channel, so please make sure you head over. We will link her stuff down in all of our descriptions from now on. So go give her some love over there. Of course, you can find us there. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. You can find our emails if you have questions, you have comments. We are here to help any way we can. So we will talk to you guys in our next video. So bye, guys.
Bye, y'all.